Last week I asked you to ask me anything because I'm an expert. I got a good amount of responses, a lot of good questions, some fun questions. We'll get to all we can today. It's important to know that, a lot of times I'm just stating my opinion up here, and that opinion is based on some experience, of course, but it is just my opinion. So let's get to some of these questions. Marty Dennis wants to know how Geri got started, so I will try to give you the very quick answer. My grandfather used to manage a toy store in New York. He brought in art supplies as one of the items that they offered, and they sold pretty well. Eventually, he decided to go into business for himself, just selling art supplies. So that's the very fast version of how he got started in art. Mile? M-I-E-L-E. Meal? This might not be your name, Catherine Meal, but listen, you wanted to know what the number one issue was I feel we encounter as artists, regardless of medium. For me, it's what am I going to draw? I struggle with that a lot. Is it the number one problem? I don't know, but I know it's my number one problem. I sit down, I'm like, I'm all ready to go, and it's like, what am I going to draw? Thank God for Pinterest. Yeah, I'm on Pinterest. Natalie Joy 89 asked me on Instagram, if I could bring one person back from the dead, who would it be? Besides family, it would be Michael Jackson. Fantasy Artist 17 wanted to know what the best way and paint was for glazing. You can glaze with just about anything. The trick is, there's a few tricks. You want to make sure that you're using transparent color and the correct glazing medium for what you're trying to do. You're better off if you're new and inexperienced trying to find something that's labeled as a glazing medium. And I also recommend using a soft brush when you're doing glazes. That soft brush will help not disturb the layers underneath because you're trying to glaze over them. Tasha Kendall wanted to know, out of all my pet peeves, what's the strangest? I really had to give this some thought because I get so many of them. This is all honesty. I have a huge pet peeve about my erect nipples. I feel like my nipples are always erect, perma-erect. I used to make Will tape them down, but then we had that HR meeting. If you watch the older videos, you'll see them now. Now I'm making you hyper aware of them. Yeah, it's a pet peeve of mine. I just stare at them and I have to realize that the video, everybody's laughing at me. I'm really, I put myself out here for you guys, okay? This is real. Strange, right? Pretty strange. Lalathian? I can't pronounce it, but thank you for asking me. What is one color I couldn't live without? I actually really love Southern Ocean Blue. It's an Australian color that Matisse makes. It's like a phthalo turquoise. It's really unique, and it makes a really nice effect when you mix it and use it right out of the tube. Beautiful. Squig Monster, you say that you like to use a lot of bright colors. Who doesn't? I like bright colors. You said that you had trouble finding fluorescent colors in watercolor, and I'm going to tell you why you're having trouble. Fluorescents are some of the least light fast paints that are available. They are not light fast. They will fade the easiest over time. My suggestion is if you want to try a watercolor type effect, Turner acrylic gouache. It is a gouache, so it's more opaque, and it's an acrylic gouache, which means it has a little acrylic polymer in it. If you thin it down, the Lumi colors are fluorescent, and you should be able to get a little bit of a watercolor effect with that fluorescent. Did I answer that question? Lucy Howard wanted to know if I've ever done or currently do any cartooning. I took some classes as a kid, but I don't do a lot of cartooning personally. I like cartooning. I like comics. I think it's a lot of fun, but personally, I don't do a lot of cartooning myself. Tara Kathleen 43 wanted to know what I thought was the best acrylic paint and why. My dad has this saying, when it comes to paint, some artists swear by them, others swear at them. Personally, what I like for acrylic paint, and I am biased, I like using the Matisse acrylic paint. Why? Well, it's really simple. I've been to their factory. I'm very good friends with the owner. I've seen him make his paint. I know the care and love he puts into it. I know how to work with them. I've used them. So for me, yeah, I love using Matisse. But that doesn't mean that it's the right choice for you. It's up to you. Anyana wanted to know about sketchbooks, watercolor brushes, fountain pens, and want to know about the best. And again, when I talk about the best, it's important to know that that has a lot to do with taste. Now, when it comes to watercolor sketching, I like easy because I'm lazy. So I use Union Square watercolor blocks because it's already taped down for me. Also, watercolor brushes, I use the Rhapsody Klinsky brushes, the Mimic brushes that we have. I also use the Aquastroke. In terms of fountain pens, I like functionality over sexy when it comes to my art. I'm gonna get in trouble because we don't sell it, but I actually use, it's the Noodler's ink, the Ahab, A-H-A-B. It's a really functional pen. It feels good in your hand. I'm gonna get fired. Water Physics asked me on Instagram, Trump or Hillary/Bernie? I actually answer this question. If you watch Artist Problems, Why Can't I Mix Purple? I state all my political opinions in that video. Amy Fritz and April Stark, you guys both had questions about skin tones. Oh, I struggle with this too. Sometimes everybody looks orange, other times everybody looks pink. Let's just look at reality, okay? Skin tone is not a color. If you look at my face right here, There are many different colors in there. What I've really tried to figure out is the technique more so than the color. What really helps build a more realistic looking face is building up layers and glazing. You know, when you're using a lot of, reddish colors, using those opposite colors, some more of a greenish tint to kind of do the offset the shadows. So that's just something else to keep in mind. Michelle K wanted to know if there would ever be a Geri store in New Jersey. I cannot say for sure, but if we ever do, they will most likely be at these addresses in West Orange or in Lawrenceville. Michelle K, because I'm teasing you, I'm going to answer your other question about oil pastels and sealing them. This is something that's kind of tricky because oil pastels never really fully dry. Oil paints on their own take like 6 months to a year to completely dry because oil evaporates slowly. There is a fixative that Sennelier puts out that is specifically for oil pastels. Really, the best thing to do is put it behind something like glass to make sure that the elements stay off of it because it never really fully dries. Nina wants to know how you can keep your acrylic paints from drying out too fast. You've got a lot of options, but I'm going to try to narrow it down. You've got open, medium, or retarder. That is designed to keep your acrylics from drying out and keep them wet longer. Golden makes something called open acrylics, which is basically an acrylic paint with that medium already built in. Liquitex puts out something called a palette wetting spray. It's basically got a little retarder in it. We also carry something called the Colormizer palette. I really love this palette. It's an airtight palette that prevents air from getting in. It will keep your paints from drying out when you're not painting by closing it up in the airtight container. All are good ways to keep your acrylics open longer. Or you can switch to oil. Cam's artistic journey, you wanted to know what my favorite things were to paint and what my favorite mediums were to use. Personally, I like to do jellyfish. I find them mesmerizing. I like to draw them. I like to paint them. I use watercolor pencil. I also really like the Inktense pencils. They're like a watercolor pencil, but they dry permanent. Oh God, that word again. They don't re-wet like a watercolor pencil. Lumumba, is that your name? I hope so. You wanted to know when I first called myself an artist. I'm a student of all the arts. Culinary arts, performing arts, fine art. I do. I love them all. And I've always felt like I was artistic. And so I've never felt like I wasn't an artist. I think that most kids feel that way. And then over time, they feel like they're not anymore because something in society says I'm not good enough or I can't show this, and it's art shaming. It's wrong. Jillian Ivory wants to know how often I am called Geri that I needed to put not Geri in my screen name. You know, it's not just me. All of our store managers get called Geri at some point. It is what it is. Tasha K 1969, you wanted to know if I've ever been arrested or contracted any diseases. The answer is no, but there's always time. Danielle J, you wanted to know how we can better ourselves as artists. My belief is share, collaborate, don't be afraid. That, I think, is the biggest way you can be a better artist. I know that sometimes I make it look easy coming up here, but you have to just be brave and be courageous and take chances. That's the only way you'll really be able to grow. A bunch of you had a question about, should I go to art school? Is art school a good investment? As I saw more and more people asking about art school specifically, I realized this is an artist problem. So we're going to tackle that in an upcoming artist problem video. Is art school worth it? That is our response video, our answers video. If I didn't get to your question, I'm sorry. I might get to it in a later video, or we might do this again. So if you haven't already, follow me at MikeNotGeri on Instagram. Keep the conversation going. I post some really weird stuff, way too much Star Wars, and that's it. So thanks so much for watching, and I never end videos that way. I overshare. The nipple thing was too personal, huh? Okay, well, it's out there now.